good. I write was hood, I might get to it. Not out the woods, so bro, I got to do it. Be a monster, that's why my mantra's being onslaught. From the Lone Star to my lungs part. Tonsils spit dumb art, so I'm going forward to the song chart. Back in media,
1 2 1 2.
Slacking, you defeated, brother. Track I hack and eat it up. I'm heating up. Hot as my mama's stove on a Sunday. Except I'm putting rappers on my lunch tray. Feng shui, say I need it all up front. One lump pay you front, so you catch the brunt of it. Maybe one day you'll get it. Said it, I'm in it. Many idiots I've offended. Lyrically acidic. You know you love me, admit it. You really lucky you timid. Otherwise I'd have to bring you down to earth too. I know this verse hurts you. I tell you what, I give you advice. I'm feeling nice. Your vices could influence your writing if you weren't biting. Y'all trying to be people that you not, so your verses ain't squat, and the person you pretend to be is rot. If you spend time clearing your mental spaces, the many ways you string up a bar can really blaze, but you faking it. The confidence you have don't exist, so you grab another skin, so you last, and that's the end. Just so happens I'm a friend. I know rapping ain't like my main genre, but just imagine if y'all were yourselves instead of trying to be everybody else. I've grown as a musician, beat the crafts, what I had to do while you sitting. So you listen and think about how dudes spitting, but dudes written's a product of my shrewd penning. Confused in it, I'm saying I've chewed mics to a crew likes delusions, exuberant might, but now the mood's right. I had to preclude sight, so I exclude mics and leashes that feast and delude twice, pretending to do right. The only thing nice is the pen and my wife to both ends of my life. I ascend certain heights, comprehend what it's like. A dopamine on this mic, a perfect 10's what I write. Certain men wanna fight, success makes a frail man irate. A lot of cake to get, but you out here hating on my ways. You should be taking notes, but instead you're broken and rotted. I'm smooth as the operator of who is Sade. A generation of waiters wanting it made and brought to them on the plate and working in the conversation. Complacent, so you and I are not adjacent. Face it, I make statements, not salutations, so I'm not going away, kid. You'd have to put a bullet in me, but I'm quick to the draw and the ammo I got plenty. So don't be surprised if you're testing and got 20. The metal you'll be getting, and trust me, it's not pennies. Rap Circle, Part 1. Yeah, that means more is coming on the way. Appreciate that support.
Eric July. I feel this album he dropped for basically, it was for free, and let content creators use it is underappreciated. What's good is Sunday. Started out with Sunday Best by Eric July. Mike Has Bad Needs, Quest Fannin. What's up? The multi-talented, just unbelievable. This dude did the comics, the music. I mean, it's just insane. He's one of the best, most articulate libertarians out there. I mean, he was on Blaze and all these other outlets, and I don't know, man. The stuff that and the metal music. I mean, this dude is insane. But I just want to talk real quick on the indictment that went down. You've obviously heard that already. Probably if you're listening to this channel, and we joke every single live. Basically, we do the knock joke, like, "Oh, you said that. That's the FBI at the door." And my kids even, I don't know where they didn't get it from me, but they always close the doors and they say, "FBI, open up." And that's kind of where we are. They went through the back door. So this time the FBI didn't SWAT Tim Pool. I'm sorry, that's alleged. This time they just said, "Tim, you're a victim. Can we come through?" The tactics are evolving. You don't have to allegedly do a SWAT coming from the FBI headquarters. Now you just link Tim through degrees of separations to Russians. And now we can say, "Tim, you're a victim. We're here to help. Open up." See, it's not FBI, open up. It's FBI, we're here to help. These people are getting to a point where I think it's becoming obvious, Benny Johnson and others involved, and I'll go into the details, where it's almost becoming so obvious that they're going to have to start naming names. I think after this election, we're going to see names named. That's how, because what do you have to lose at that point? But if you don't know a lot of people have the details really wrong about the indictment, just flat out wrong. I've studied it and if I have something wrong, crowdsource it for me here. If you heard something different, bring it to me so I can find out where I'm off or where that's off. I have read the indictment. It's not a hard read. It actually reads like a damn Russian novel or something like that, like a fiction novel, and then also analyzed in many fronts. The aspect that I want to go at here is there are people who are, and this is all allegedly, because in the indictment, they're not named, but these are the people who we think that they are. Commentator number 1, Dave Rubin. Commentator number 2, Tim Pool. How did we determine these things? Well, it's kind of like the P. Diddy scandal, where the indictment didn't name Meek Mill, but it said Philly rapper who dated. I mean, they basically list dup, 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 and you're like, oh, bing, bing, there it is. So we went through and said 2.4 million subscribers. Looks like Dave Rubin. Tim Pool, this is one of his channels, 1.3 million on the, I forget the exact name on the channel. He has the Timcast IRL, Timcast, and I think this one's called Tim Pool if you look at, and that's a separate company actually, which that is an interesting move. And that was before all this, I think. But that really, I think, helped him on this. But Tim Pool has 1.3 million. In the indictment, it said, we're not going to name who it is, but they got 1.3 million YouTube subscribers, and they were a part of the tenant media. There's nobody else that fits that bill. And Tim has obviously done interviews and all that. Benny Johnson, we think it's commentator number 3. Commentator number 4, we believe, is Lauren Southern. Commentator number 5, we believe, is Taylor Hanson. We'll get to him in a second. Not in any negative way. Let's just get that out of the way. I mean, let me get all of this out of the way. There is nothing here for me. I will say I wish Tim was a little bit stronger in his reply. Easy for me to say the FBI is not in front of me right now saying, talk to us. But that is still my take. But I am not against, in this video, nothing against Lauren, her husband, Tim, Benny, Dave, Lauren Southern, Matt Christensen, and who else was in there? I think that's, and Taylor Hanson. Nothing against them. I support them 100% in regards to the response to this indictment from the DOJ. So let's get that out of the way to make sure we know that's the tone. But I'm just telling you who's in it. So that's everybody who's in the indictment. 2024 is wild, isn't it? We're talking about DOJ indictment. They're not charged with anything. There's nobody charged with anything in the indictment other than 2 Russians. There's no, people are kind of really using this to kind of link everybody together as if they're charged or anything like that. The indictment is on 2 people, 2 Russians. That's it. And the Russians are in Russia. There's no extradition treaty or agreement with Russia. So what's the point of this indictment? The whole thing was pomp and circumstance. It's Russiagate back, revisited. This is probably the 3rd or 4th time they've revisited Russiagate to smear people who are their political enemies. That's all this was. That's all this was. And then the next day on Morning Joe Scarborough, people aren't watching them as much. They still have power, but who knows what's going to happen down the road. And regardless of that, whether they're threatened or not with that power, they want to be able to go after. How does Joe Scarborough go after Tim Pool? There's no other way other than Merrick Garland and the DOJ doing a pomp and circumstance indictment that doesn't even allege Lauren Chen did anything wrong. The indictment doesn't even say Lauren Chen and her husband knew something wrong was going on. It doesn't even, much less charge them. So the only thing the indictment says is 2 Russians who are in Russia. They're not defending themselves. The whole thing could be made up. I'm not saying that it is. It's too detailed for it to be made up, in my opinion, but it could be. We would never know who's gonna challenge it. The Russians are drinking vodka right now, laughing because there's no risk to them. They'll be like, we'll just do it again. Call up that guy. What's that guy? Osiris AI. Let's offer him a bag of 5 million. Let's see if he'll do it for his tens of viewers. They're just over there laughing at this. And then looking at the fallout of pointing at these commentators. What is the Russian propaganda? So the basic shell of this is two Russians working with Russia Today. I still call it Russia Today. I don't know why. I don't like calling it RT. They're working with this outlet, Russia Today. And Russia Today brings a bag to Lauren Chen and her husband, but they hide the bag just like Hunter Biden and many other of these rich people through all these shell companies. And then they, in this case, made up some names, went to Lauren Chen and said, we want to give you a bag of 10 million. I don't know if it's over time or it's just, they say about 10 million. That's not a lot of money, guys. I know that's a lot for, like, if I get a $5 super chat, I'm like, thank you. I know it's a lot in perspective to a small channel, and that's the only reason I don't get the knock. Anyone in my space, any of you watching, the only reason you don't get the knock is you don't have the influence, so they have to start at the top. Tim Pool's the top. Joe Rogan doesn't do the hardcore politics like that. There's nobody at the top more than Tim Pool. Steven Crowder's big too, but I think Tim is way more in the Trump world and all that. I mean, Trump is, I don't think, has Steven Crowder had all the Trump people that Tim has? I don't think so. From Bannon to Navarro, I don't think he had. So they start at the top, and the Russians go to Lauren with the bag, and they say, we want to fund an outlet. So they bring together this super crew, and we were, I remember last year, we're like, well, what is Tenet Media? We don't even know. And Tim didn't really even talk about it much, like what it was. And so they just licensed it from Tim. What's the topics? What are the topics of the Russian propaganda? Inflation and immigration. Those are the crazy topics. That's the Russian propaganda. Our country has designated Russia to be basically an enemy. When you look at the list of enemies, I believe, I forget, we were looking that up a while. I should have that prepared, but and these are the exact list of people that correspond to the TikTok bill. So now Tim's take on that TikTok bill is beyond cringe now, because now he's not a social media company. But the bill itself was basically like, if we think you're associated with Russians, people on the list of countries that we say, Iran, Russia, whoever else is, I forget if China's on there, but that list there, if you're on that list and we think you're associated with that or friendly to people on that list, we can come at you with your social media platform. Now they've linked him to the Russians. You see how bad that TikTok take was? That's the whole point of that, to link him to this. How? Because he talks about immigration. And the podcast he did with Tenet Media was more culture than even politics. So none of this makes sense from a Con Inc. standpoint. Will Chamberlain, Ashley St. Clair, Cat Turd, all these big cringe boomer neo-MAGA accounts laughing at Lauren Chen. I'm going to break it down a little bit more here. Let's see what people are feeling. Jessica Mai, good morning. Jessica, how do you think, Jessica Mai, friend of the show, what do you think about AOC and Dick Cheney coming together to back the same presidential candidate? My Cat's Bad Knee says, if you look at the timing, the money would have come to Chen and her husband at around the same time she was trying to get cancer treatment for her husband, for her father, not husband, sorry. I did not know that. That's what crowdsourced this information. Thank you. To my knowledge, she has not replied yet. That's great information to know. I mean, yeah. Milo Hoffman says, almost 100% convinced now this is a DOJ scheme to enable them to get a FISA warrant and snoop all communications and private data from all these influencers on the right and give it to the Democrats. Absolutely. You see how they link the chess moves? There's Russians that we haven't heard from. They don't care why would they defend themselves? They don't need to. So you could just make whatever shit up. I'm not saying it is. I don't know if it is. I actually don't think it's made up from what I'm seeing, but it could be. And you just put it up there and you don't name the people, but you say basically enough, these are the people. And because of the way the FISA laws are, they can now, anybody associated with it, you, me, anyone who has, basically anyone who's communicated with anyone on that list, anyway, in any way, shape, or form, comments, DMs, everything, fair game under the FISA that your I believe, I got to double check. I don't want to say your MAGA, but the Republicans for sure. I forget which MAGA. Some MAGA, I believe, supported that. That your people on this channel are largely not Republican fans, but the Republicans supported. Mike Johnson and others supported this. Any communication, so all Trump's team, all that. Let's go to the basics of this first, though. And I want to start it from the standpoint of the commentators involved. For the commentators involved, I broke it down from the indictment, what was the common involvement for basically all the commentators involved, and then breaking it down, there was specific, different, unique involvement with some of the commentators like Lauren Southern and Benny Johnson that only applied to them, that didn't apply to Tim or Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin, he looked like he just made goofy stuff for them that was really just, it's basically, I've done it too. There's a TikTok video and I'm not in the mood for it right now, so you haven't seen that in a while, but Tim's done it too, where you just see a TikTok video and you just do some stupid commentary on it. You play the TikTok video and you can get pretty good views on it, all relative. I don't get a lot, but everyone gets more views on those. Some of Tim's largest views are him reacting to some stupid TikTok video, which it is what it is. And Dave Rubin wanted to get in that game. And not only did he get in that game, they offered him some bank. So Dave Rubin was like, that money looks pretty good. About $5 million a year to do reaction to stupid TikTok videos. I don't think Dave did any substantive content for Tenet Media, from what I saw at least. So the indictment named everyone that I named here. The objective in the indictment says this, was to amplify issues such as immigration, nationalism, domestic politics. That's the divisive stuff there. There is some more specific stuff as well. The Russians used fake personas, basically online personas, to talk to some of the people involved to do some editing. What type of editing were they doing? After I do this video, if somebody chops it up into segments, that's editing. So that doesn't mean that necessarily that they tell you to do Russian talking points or anything like that. Even if they did, I wouldn't even have a problem with that. What's the problem with that? China, Qatar, Israel, they're all telling people to do whatever talking points. All of a sudden, I'm supposed to be scared because it's Russia. I'm more closely politically aligned at this point to Putin than I am to Israel. So am I supposed to be scared by that because daddy government told me I'm supposed to hate Russia? Understand and there's a drone that I just saw. Where did the drone go? Into an eastern NATO country. I forget which country was it. I forgot what country it was. I just saw that today. That a drone came into eastern NATO territory. And the reason I'm bringing that up is that means if we don't want that, I'm hoping it doesn't happen. But if some type of war came out, what I just said would literally get me in, could literally, and I think would get me in jail, Latvia. So today I saw a Russian unlived drone, but it's just a bomb. I don't even, okay. A drone, whatever, rocket bomb. A Russian drone struck in, and it looks like it's an accident, but it still could be could be interpreted as an act of war. Eastern NATO. If there is, and obviously if NATO's attacked, then all these bootlickers from Dick Cheney to AOC to Nikki Haley to Lindsey Graham to Donald Trump will want to go to war over there. And if they do that, what I just said, Putin, I'm more politically aligned. I literally on this live, it was a really bad live because I can't pronounce Russian. I should do it again in AI so I like the AI because it pronounces the words most of the time accurately. These Russian turn words and all that. It was a brutal live, but the point of reading the Putin speech was he was just basically talking about the anti-woke stuff, and I was like, I agree with a lot of it. Not that I'm not saying he's an ally of mine or anything like that, but I'm more politically aligned with Putin than I am with Israel. That's for sure. I'm more politically aligned with Putin than I am with my own federal government. If a war breaks out, that comment right there literally could get you in the gulag. Just like in the UK, they're allegedly clearing out the prisons in a way to make room to put people who are misgendering and all this other stuff, talking about being white nationalists, which is not a bad term, in jail. That's the thin line that we're doing here, and that's where we're going on this. And then basically this indictment is saying the way that you talk about immigration, nationalism, domestic politics could put you in there too. Because if you talk about immigration from a white nationalist or just a nationalist standpoint, the indictment is saying that's Russian talking points. So you see the links. They branch off, man. They got chess moves like a knight in the middle of the board. We can go wherever, we can go a lot of different places. We're pretty powerful. So they use the fake personalities. They went to Tim and all that. Tim did an interview with Ben Shapiro and he said, hey, this basically Tim said, my lawyers talked to them. The indictment seems to be a little bit different than that. There's a little slight difference in there, I think, from what Tim's take is and what I see in the indictment. Again, I'm not against Tim here, but just telling you there's a little bit of a difference there. But because they were talking about a Discord and there had to have been some type of communication. And maybe Tim's like, well, that was through the lawyers, and you can say that. But the Russians give Lauren Chen and her husband a bag. Mike Has Bad Knees says that it's around the time her father had cancer. I don't know if that's related or not. And so Lauren Chen and her husband take the bag. And what the story is that the Russians, basically they came to them with a false persona named Edward Gregorian, who was because when in these spaces there's money flying everywhere. 10 million is nothing to these people. Tim was getting 100,000 per episode just to license it, not even counting his other stuff, just to license the Culture War show to them. It wasn't even an exclusive license. He let them get the show live and do whatever they wanted to do, chop it up and all that, but he still could do it on his side too. So you see how Tim Pool got involved. Tim's like, I'm doing the show anyway. It would be like me doing this show and someone say, can I pay you 100,000 just to put it on my channel? Yes. Yes. Hey, can I give you 100,000 to, yes, you can. Yes, go ahead. Do it now. Here's my bank account. That's basically that was the extent of Tim's involvement. Tim doesn't do editing for his show. Tim's very talented. Not everybody can do a show on AI and religion and politics, and he's a unique person. There's literally no one on the planet that I'm aware of that can do shows. Now his knowledge on every issue, that's not a diss, is not as deep because it's wide, but it's very deep for as wide as it is. Very, 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 very expansive, from everything from space to AI to video games to TV. I'm like, where do you find the time to know about these TV series when you know all this other stuff? But so he's earned his money. Don't get me wrong. But so they give him 100K. It's like, yes. Yeah, that's another 100K per month in revenue that you can use for your coffee shops and all that other stuff. And so and Dave Rubin's like, well, yeah, 5 mil, you throwing around money? Yes. So let's look in kind of the unique kind of involvement here. Dave Rubin, like I said, he was the same there. His production company, and it costs a little bit because they don't do everything. So they pay people to do editing, the video, all that. So it's not like it's pure 100. Like me, it's just literally in the basement, turn on the camera. He's got people editing and all that. I don't have any of that. So Dave Rubin, he's not really a big part of this. I'm not going to spend much time on him. So for Tim Pool, so he was about getting about 5 million annually on it, with the 100,000 a month. And to be clear, the indictment does not say Tim Pool knew anything about the Russian backing. And I completely believe that. The 100K is nice, and I joke about saying yes, and Tim would, say yes quickly too, probably after his lawyers vet it. There was a mistake made there for sure, but it's not worth it for Tim 100K a month to be involved and connected to Russians. So if he would have known that, he would have never, not even close, ever been involved with it. In my opinion, not even close. I mean, not even a quick decision. If he would have said, "Oh, the Russians are, Russia Today is involved," no, because that's going to go directly to his credibility. We don't even know if the CIA, Mossad was involved with, let's help the Russians do this stupid stuff with tenant media. We know they'll buy it. How would we know? How would we ever know? Say they extradited the Russians and charged them, and we wouldn't even know. We would never know all of that. So that's why I say this whole thing's built on a card of basically a deck of cards. It's trust. I have no trust in the DOJ. If you're cheering for Merrick Garland and the DOJ, I think you need to double check your paperwork. Not that they're always going to be wrong, not that I'm going to say they're wrong just because they did something, but doesn't that make you pause for a second? The voice crackling, feckless one, Merrick Garland, the one hunting down J6ers like dogs and involved with many other horrific, basically, discrediting the American justice system, Merrick Garland and the DOJ and the FBI too, Christopher Wray, appointed by Trump. You better double and triple check your work. Some other interesting stuff in here was Benny Johnson specifically was named. This specifically only applies to him. They allege that on March 23rd, the Russian Afansia Ava, posing as this person named Helena, asked Lauren Chen to make Benny Johnson, not to make, but to have, but if they're bankrolling, you've got to do it. The government's alleging that the fake personality, which was really the Russian, and Lauren Chen, the document doesn't say Lauren didn't know, but the document doesn't say that she did know. Asked Lauren Chen to go to Benny Johnson and say, do a video about the Moscow attack that happened on March 22nd. Now, there was public reporting attributing the attack to ISIS. Johnson's video was requested to shift the narrative, allegedly from the government. Benny Johnson disputes this because he said, I did the video on the 22nd or whatever, blaming the sunflower country and the U.S. instead. Johnson agreed to cover it, is what the allegations are. So that gives you that breakdown of how they could say the Russian influence money is involved. And there are, number one, Benny Johnson wasn't the only one that went with that angle. Jack Posobiec did as well. He explored it. Nobody's saying definitively. We don't know definitively. I don't know if I ever did. I might have mentioned it. I don't know if I definitely didn't do a full segment on it just because I just didn't get a chance to. And it's a lot of information. It's very hard to find out what information is true or not when you get into that stuff. But it did look like there was, because the ISIS people, it looked like they came in through Ukraine. It was just weird how that whole thing happened. But the point is, that's where they could say, oh, Russia wanted this narrative, so then you talked about it. And then that's where but there's no charges against Benny Johnson. But that's just an example of it. After this whole thing, hopefully that breaks it down. Any questions on it, let me know. Bobby Ballbags, what's up? What's up, homie? Jessica Mai says, Bannon is probably having a fit. I wish he could do a Suge Knight and podcast from jail. That would be dope. That would be really dope. They'd probably hem him up for that too, though. But yeah, you're right. Bannon is really... You see why they put him in jail. And MAGA did not. MAGA could have shut down the government over this. They put Bannon in jail over the previous Congress's subpoena. So as soon as the Congress took over in the midterms, they could have said they could have wiped that out and done it all. Everybody, including the MAGA members of Congress, let Steve Bannon go to prison. And now he's sorely missed. There's no other personality like him out there. Milo said, I'm not going to be shocked if Rubin and Poole get their YouTube shut down. This is the perfect excuse for YouTube. So let me get into that. So after this, there's no charges against Lauren Chen, no charges against Tenet Media. That could be for various reasons. That could be because they cooperated. That could be there's still ongoing investigation. They could have the charges ready, locked and loaded. I don't know why, but there are no charges. There isn't even any allegations on them. So there's much less a verdict. So Lauren Chen has a YouTube channel. Tenet Media has a YouTube channel. And Taylor Hansen has a YouTube channel. Obviously, Dave Rubin has a YouTube channel. Tim Poole, Benny Johnson, all of them. Whose YouTube channels got taken down? Lauren Chen, Tenet Media, and Taylor Hansen. Why? Taylor Hansen is a very unique one. He's barely mentioned in this thing. He's not mentioned in any type of detailed way like Benny Johnson is. Why is his YouTube channel? I feel like I want to give you guys a chance to speculate and why this thing has become a big topic on the channel lately. Look at all the commentators. What do Lauren Chen and Taylor Hansen have in common? I'll wait for it. Taylor Hansen is out in the streets. So what event, what was one of the big events that Taylor Hansen was out in the streets for recently? That would put him separate, that he would cover, that only Lauren Chen would cover. And not Tim Poole, and not Dave Rubin, and not Lauren Southern, and not Matt Christian. Well, I don't know his material that much. I like Matt. I like all of them. Don't get me wrong. What is it that would, and I don't believe Matt has covered it in that way, but I'm going to leave Matt out because I don't follow his content as much. I know Dave Rubin and these other ones don't. Benny and Lauren are attractive. No. Lauren is attractive, but that's not the Lauren Chen and Taylor Hansen are the only people who cover Nick Fuentes in a positive light. And in Taylor Hansen's case, he's just basically pretty neutral. Who was the number one? You had the homie Iggy there that was at every part of it. Here's the thing. Here's the difference between the homie Iggy and Taylor Hansen. That's why they would go to, and God forbid that they did that to Iggy, but why would they go to Taylor Hansen? Because Taylor Hansen was linked into Tenet Media. Tenet Media was getting views because they had some backing. Taylor Hansen and Lauren Chen linked to Nick Fuentes. It really isn't just about Nick Fuentes. It's about Israel. Out of all of those people, and somebody tell me about Matt Christensen. I don't know his take, so let me make him out. Let me not let me keep him out of it because I don't watch enough. I know his titles. I've seen his videos. Don't get me wrong. I just don't watch him enough to know this. But I watch other ones enough to know. Lauren Chen and Taylor Hansen are the only ones out of all of those groups that challenges Israel. They're the only ones that got their channels nuked from YouTube. Am I supposed to look at that as a coincidence? I don't want anybody's channels to get nuked from YouTube. Let me make sure that that's clear. But that's what happened. It just proves to me how problematic this is. And there's a stench here in the room that we have to cover, and that stench is the Daily Wire. It all links. Matt is usually, I'll say, so Mike has bad knee, says Matt is usually, well, what does usually mean? Clarify that for him. Is he pro Nick? Does he talk about Nick Fuentes? So let me know if he talks about Nick. I think Iggy's been on the show, so I think Iggy's been on with Matt, so he's got to be pretty open. So I'll put Matt, his co-host, the blonde woman, is very anti-Jew. Wow. That's strong, because I wouldn't say I'm anti-Jew. I'm anti-Zionist, anti-Israel. So that could go against what I'm saying here. So I have to follow back up with that. But I'm tying in quite a few things here. I'm tying in anti-Zionism, anti-Israel, Nick Fuentes, and Daily Wire. Basically, Taylor Hansen and Lauren Chen indirectly have those connections. Taylor, I don't know if he has any Daily Wire connection, though. But you see that there's connections here. And Taylor's very fair-minded. He's not any type of shock jock or anything. He's just basically a street reporter. And when he talks about these topics, he's you've seen him on Tim Pool, very fair-minded. He presents very well on these topics. Lauren Chen has been very, very doing a lot of videos covering Nick Fuentes. So let me break down the stench that I see with Daily Wire. I've got problems here. Daily Wire wanted to groom Nick Fuentes when Nick Fuentes was 18 years old. Nick talked about that on the Jake Shields and many other times too. It's his pinned tweet, I believe. Let me go look at Nick's. I think it's still his pinned tweet. Oh no, it's not his pinned tweet anymore. But it was his pinned tweet for a while where he broke down the story of when he challenged Ben Shapiro when he was 18 years old. I'm just going to look to see if I see it real quick. Because he's been pinning different stuff on there. So I don't see it here real quick. But it was his pinned tweet for a while where he broke down his origin story. So Daily Wire wanted to groom Nick Fuentes. What that means is I'm not talking about sexually grooming. I'm talking about politically grooming, and basically not even politically grooming. It's basically being pro-Israel. They see Nick Fuentes has talent, and they say, well, come join us. That's what they do. That's what they do with Brett Cooper. That's what they did with Matt Walsh. That's what they did with Candace Owens, all at different ages. But, I mean, you'd want to get them as young in their career as possible and mold them. Very famously, Matt Walsh had a blog, we have talked about it, where it was a very based nationalist, America First, questioning Israel blog before he joined the Daily Wire. Matt Walsh is secretly based beyond belief, but the beauty of it is Daily Wire sucked him in. They got him the contract and say, here's the boundaries, Matt. You can't go beyond this. And Matt stays in the boundaries. I'm not going to knock a man how he feeds his family. I'm just telling you what happens, though. Now he has the paychecks coming in. Is it really worth it for Matt Walsh? If he can sleep at night, is it really worth for him to go Candace Owens when he could go independent, but if he's comfortable where he's at, why would he do it? If he wants to go independent, then he would do a Candace Owens type thing, even though Candace Owens is now back. To me, she's backtracking from where she was on the trajectory that she was before. But what happened after Nick? All he did was question it. Nick at 18 wasn't even the Nick now. He was just saying, well, what's going on with Israel and all this? He got blacklisted, didn't say anything outrageous. Got blacklisted and YouTube got banned. Oh, okay. We'll take a note of that. Daily Wire offered Lauren Chen a contract. She said no. I think she is with Blaze and then got fired from Blaze or let go from Blaze. I'm not 100% sure there after this whole thing came out. Lauren Chen said no to Daily Wire. And she got nuked from YouTube. That's interesting. Lauren Chen hosted one of the best spaces that we've talked about multiple times on here where everybody was in that space. Even Jeremy Boring. It was weird at the time, and now it looks even weirder to me. Nick Fuentes was in that space before he was brought back on X. He was under the Standis Owens account, and it was with Dr. Karlin Borisenko, and Lauren Chen hosted the space, and it was just an amazing discussion. And Jeremy Boring got into it. It was a little bit of on the Candace stuff when that was hot. Jeremy Boring jumped into the space. How did that happen? I asked Dr. Karlin Borisenko. She said she wasn't sure. She thinks Lauren Chen offered, sent the invite to him. But she wasn't 100% sure. Oh, that was weird. Why would Daily Wire get jumped into that space with Lauren Chen and Nick Fuentes? And with Lauren Chen, she was being very fair-minded. She's not some groiper or anything, or, obviously she wouldn't be a groiper, but she isn't like a huge Nick Fuentes sycophant or something like that. She's just saying, well, the bruh has a good point here. That's her whole association with him. Daily Wire looks at it. After that big live or that stream on X, shortly thereafter, Nick got brought back on by a groiper who asked Elon Musk about it. I forgot his name, but bro went legend for it. You think the Daily Wire was happy with Lauren Chen? Taylor Hansen reported on AFPAC 4. A lot of the footage that I used for my video on AFPAC 4 was from Taylor Hansen. He had the best footage. He had the best compilations on it. It was for Tenet Media. He got banned. His YouTube got banned. They didn't ban him. He's in the same boat as Tim, even less of a boat than them. How did he get banned? Well, he was an employee of Tenet Media, so it's not the exact same boat. But that's interesting. Nick Fuentes is about to go to Michigan in an attempt, and I don't even know if this is the true attempt because Trump's never going back to 2016. He just said, if I'm not voted in, Israel will go away or something like that. He's a complete knee pad for Zog trash right now. But I guess that's what it is. Groper War 2 to challenge Trump, immigration. The ask is very simple. No war, immigration, and fire the never-Trumpers that you have hired with you. But he's going to Michigan because Michigan, the numbers could swing either way. Why Nick would chose Michigan is because if you sway a couple thousand people, you could sway everything there. And a lot of people are scared. A lot of people are angry with Nick for doing this, to go to Michigan, basically saying we're not voting for Trump and basically propping up the pro-Palestinian side to not vote for Trump or whoever, just to get the votes from Trump unless he acquiesces to the demands. Trump swayed the Joe Kent Washington District 3 election with a couple thousand votes. They're still pissed about that. Tucker's pissed about that. Joe Kent's pissed about that. I don't know what Joe Kent was thinking. The Gropers liked Joe Kent, believe it or not, until he turned on them. It was all over, I think, the Marjorie Taylor Greene going there, and then they asked Joe Kent. Joe Kent disavowed. All you have to do is say, I never avowed. You don't even have to avow. But he disavowed. Nick organized in Washington, and he obviously was a part of Joe Kent losing a very slight margin over there. And he could do, this is big time, Michigan. He was about to go to Michigan. Ben Shapiro's fully aboard on Trump. Trump can't take Israel's dick out of his mouth. Ben Shapiro loves 2024 Trump. That's why. He hated 2016 Trump. Ben Shapiro was a never Trumper. He did an article for Daily Wire, like, I'm never voting for this, bruh. Even though Trump in 2016 said he loved Israel. He didn't love Israel enough for Ben Shapiro at that time. Now, this version of Trump is, every day I'm seeing a new quote about how Israel's great and all this from Trump. Ben Shapiro doesn't want Nick Fuentes going to Michigan to get Trump out of there. He loves Trump. I wonder if Taylor was going to cover that for Tenet Media. he could still do it. Christian, what's up? Few minutes late. It's all good. Appreciate you. Great friend of the show. $5 super chat. He hit me up. Greatly appreciated. Christian ran into some issues on X. You can put it in the chat if it's not too, obviously if it does, I don't want you banned from the chat, but he got a timeout on X for what? He got into beef with some Canadian or something like that. But we'll see you again after you get out of Free Christian. So you see that. Let's keep on going. Lauren often agreed with Nick Fuente and was doing more and more videos covering him. Channel nuked. Daily Wire has been trying to groom Tim Pool, but he had that licensing deal with Tenant Media. Now, that's not all of his products. That's just that one company. It's a separate company. That wasn't Timcast IRL. Or that would be a lot of money to do that. But that licensing deal with Tenant Media opens the door for Tenant Media to be like, well, we'll license all these other things from you. We'll give you $100,000 for the Culture War. So then Timcast IRL is probably $1 million a month. I'm just throwing out numbers. I don't know what it would be. It could be. I mean, that might be low to license it. And that is competition. Daily Wire's, the whole purpose of the company is you have corporate media, then you have alt media. But then you have to make sure the alt media can become anti-Zionist. And it really is right now. We're seeing quotes from people you might not even have thought of saying, wait, I'm questioning this whole relationship right now. It's really bubbling up. And after the election, it's going to take off because I think there's a lot of people who are like, I don't like what's happening, but I want Trump to win. So I'm not going to say anything right now. After the election, I think this anti-Zionist movement, that's when I start to say MAGA. So I'm still repping a MAGA shirt right now. That MAGA, and I support the homie C3P meme for sure. Dilly meme team, always supported them, still support them. I think a lot of, I'm not going to speak for them. I think there's a lot of people who are like, I'm not feeling this, I'm not against, a lot of people are probably like, I'm completely anti-Israel. But there's a lot of people who are like, I'm not anti-Israel, but I'm tired of hearing about them. From even Trump, who would rock Make America Great Again. And right now, though, they're focused on getting Trump elected. After the election, you're going to see that thing, that's going to skyrocket. Because there's no Trump to protect at that point. People are like, I'm questioning everything. So that's when I say MAGA is going to come back to being MAGA, America first. It doesn't have to be, I'm anti-Israel. I'm not saying MAGA has to be anti-Israel. It just can't be Israel. It can't be Zionist, which is putting Israel over everything else. So they're trying to groom Tim Pool into it. Daily Wire needs to get the competition. Their goal is to say alt media has to be pro-Israel. It's not enough for alt media to be indifferent to Israel. Alt media's got to be pro-Israel. So if you're going to control the alt media space, the biggest one out there to control is Steven Crowder's up there too, but just hardcore, I think Tim Pool is still above that with the show that he does and the people that he brings in. So and obviously Daily Wire tried to get Steven Crowder too, so it doesn't matter. Remember that's what the whole thing that blew up. So they tried to get Steven Crowder and Tim Pool under their umbrella, and then once you're under their umbrella, you can't go beyond Matt Walsh, where Matt Walsh is barely talks about Israel, says, I'd rather us, basically Matt Walsh's take is I'd rather not send money there, but I'm going to talk about everything else. I can talk about wokeism, all that kind of stuff. I can't really get into that because that'd be crossing the Candace Owens Rubicon. Calling what's happening in the Middle East a genocide is absolutely unacceptable on Daily Wire. If Tim did that, his relationships would be done. Even with Trump. If Tim Pool went on a live today and didn't do anything if the live was 5 seconds long and Trump said Israel's committing genocide and pressed end, everything, Trump world, Daily Wire world, all of it done, over, forever. And that's even before he would get a deal with them. Daily Wire is trying to scoop Tim Pool up to make sure he stays under their umbrella. After all of this goes down, who does Tim Pool go to for an interview? His first interview. The first interview to come back, basically to say, in my opinion, YouTube, don't nuke me. I'm friend with Super Zio. I'm friend with Ben Shapiro. And he goes on with Ben Shapiro to provide, and I want his company to stay out. I'm not knocking it but I'm telling you what's happening. I don't want Tim Pool to be knocked off of YouTube. I'm telling you what he has to do to stay on YouTube. And that's why Israel comes up a lot on this show. The tentacles are everywhere. And you can't ignore it anymore. Who does he go to? Tim has a good relationship with Steven Crowder. I know Steven Crowder has a lot going on with his undercover stuff and all that. But everybody does. He could have went to Steve Crowder. He could have went to, I don't know who else he kind of goes to. I mean, even John Stossel, I think he went to and did an interview one time. Charlie Kirk. He's cool with Charlie Kirk. He could have went to Charlie Kirk too. So there's a lot here that links it all back to Israel. And here's the funny part about this. Let me show you this clip real quick. It's just a 30-second clip. Tim Pool was on with Ben Shapiro talking about foreign influence. And what happened, I thought this was unbelievable when I listened to it, about 15 minutes.
It's frustrating to get entangled in whatever.
15-minute interview. And this is, in the middle of the interview, Ben Shapiro pulls to an ad for Israel.
It's frustrating to get entangled in whatever it is she's accused of being involved in.
Folks, our friends in Israel need our help now more than ever. If you're looking for a tangible way to support the Holy Land, you need to check out Artza Box. Artza brings the essence of Israel right to your doorstep. Every 3 months, you receive a carefully curated collection of authentic Israeli products, a treasure trove of handcrafted gifts, beautiful artwork, delicious foods, aromatic spices, and more. It's like taking a journey through the land of the Bible without even leaving your home.
What the F? This is the interview Tim Pool did, the first interview to basically say YouTube, Mossad, CIA, whatever. I'm down. I'm down with MC Yamaka. We could do a rap album. I'm going to have Ben Shapiro on the next Timcast music video. Don't nuke the channel.
It's frustrating to get entangled in whatever it is she's accused of being involved in.
Folks, our friends in Israel need our help now more than ever.
I mean, Ben Shapiro is basically a Mossad agent. I mean, he's just basically an agent of Israel. Tim Pool goes to the #1 dude pro-Israel in our country to say, hey, I didn't know anything about this. I'm good. I love, all that. Why? Tim Pool can be changed. His opinion, in my opinion, can be changed on Israel. It can evolve. That's why Daily Wire is involved. Right now, he has the same as Matt Walsh. Tim has the exact same position on Israel as Matt Walsh, which is not an accident because that's the furthest you can go. The only argument Tim has as far as the Israel stuff is, he says, why do you talk about Israel? I just don't like people who always talk about Israel. He doesn't have any substantive argument against the specific concerns. It's just, well, I don't want to talk about Israel. I want to talk about other countries. He could easily change his mind on Israel. So Daily Wire gets involved, basically. Now, I'm not saying they went to Tim, but Tim knew he had basically, where would you go? The smart play. You're like, shoot, I got to make sure they don't take down my channels. I don't think they are. I've never been, against Israel, but let me go to Ben. So that's where I think the big power for Daily Wire comes in, is you got to come to us. And then, remember, Tim had Ye on the show. Nick was there. Tim, after that, I played the clip. I don't have it here right now. It's in a different video where Tim said people had called him after Ye had left. They were talking about it with Luke. I think it was Hannah Claire Brumelo, and Luke was there definitely. And Tim was like, before the Ye interview, people were calling me and they were telling me this and that. Who was calling him? I would bet my phone is my wallet. Bet it all right here. Put it on the table. Someone from Daily Wire or associated with Daily Wire called Tim before the Ye interview and said, hey, you got to do this, or we recommend that, we recommend this. Why do you think Tim Tim isn't. Why do you think Tim sounded so scared during that interview? Why do you think Tim started the interview in a way that, when you're doing an interview like that, you start comfortable. Let the bruh he still had his whole jacket on and everything. You could tell Ye wasn't comfortable. Calm down, bro. What's you into your music? What do you whatever you do, you don't start out with the JQ. Not in a interview like that if you want him to stay. Why did he sound so scared? Start off with a terrible topic and then was disingenuous on it because people had called him, and I guarantee you it was allegedly Daily Wire. Who do you think fed all that fear into him? Yeah, that's what happens. Chuck says there is no Palestinian genocide. The Palestinian people, in quotes, who are most under Israelis' control are Palestinian citizens and what is PRs? Where are the within Israel unlived camps? Well, Gaza is basically an Israeli ghetto that can't get resources without Israel. It's Israel's responsibility as the way it's set up, and they've bombed them to living hell, unliving women and children. I don't know what it is. I don't know what else you would call it. And the goal of the bombing is to eradicate, even if you aren't hummus, to eradicate people that could become hummus. So the goal is literally, from their own standpoint, genocide. I'm not saying it's going to be successful. It's not. You can't eradicate an ideology with weaponry. You just can't. Even if you eradicate everybody in the world that believes it, when people reproduce, somebody else will believe it again because someone believed it before. But Israel is just one of those savage nations. They would unlive me. I mean, they want to go to the list. They're not going to be stupid, but they're anyone who is anti-Zionist, they would want to unlive, literally. That's how savage they are. So, yeah, that's an interesting. I mean, I respect the take, but I respectfully disagree. Ray is very hardcore against the Gropers, and you got to be careful because it's not really about the Gropers. It's a bigger thing, but Ray says the Gropers are never satisfied. They had Candace Owens and didn't take the W. They turned on her when she wasn't as far right as them. That's not what happened. So I will fully admit I live this stuff too much. So I know what's going on. I fully admit I live this stuff too much. But I know what's going on. The Gropers were never against Candace Owens. And the problem the Gropers had with her is they knew that she was just like me, young, and I'm very similar to the Candace Owens. I never had beef with the Gropers because I acknowledge where I'm knowledgeable and where I'm not. And Candace Owens does not do that. And Candace Owens is a Johnny-come-lately into the JQ. And now she's taking the conversation off of the JQ into, it's not the JQ, it's just this subset of the JQ. No. You have not proven that. And all you're doing is talking about this subset. That doesn't mean the JQ, that's not invalidating the whole JQ. So now we're looking at you like, why are you trying to use this subset? And this pains me to bring in Dave Smith as a Jew to say, well, we don't need to question the JQ. Look, I'm bringing in a Jew. Let's talk about this subset. No. And then you do a Twitter space and you don't invite the big people that are knowledgeable on this topic. You invite Dave Smith, who keeps the topic safe. You invite a Zionist who keeps the topic safe and derails the whole thing. So it's not even about, nobody really said, the Gropers never said Candace Owens was far right. They don't think she's some far right person. They respected that she had courage to come out, but then now the path she's taking is disingenuous. So then they ask her, well, why didn't you have Nick on? Nick said he wanted to go on. It was on his birthday, but any other podcast, she goes on her YouTube channel and says, I can't have Nick on YouTube. What? That's BS. Well, Jake Shields just had him on. I know he edited the video, but if you want him on, you can have him on. Okay, whatever. Then she says, well, You want me to do a separate show just to bring on Nick Fuentes? You literally did a X Space, which is a separate show. You literally just did that. So why is she lying? That's the problem. She said why? She basically said, "Well, I'm not just like Tim. Tim doesn't do X Spaces. So Tim's like, I don't do separate shows just to bring in bras. That's just not what I do." That's what Candace tried to say, but she had literally done a separate X Space to talk about this topic and didn't invite Nick. So she just lied. She literally lied about why she didn't have Nick on. So it's not about her not being far right. It's about, we know if you bring on people who know how to talk about this, you're going to have a bigger problem keeping it. So Candace has actually taken a soft, after leaving Daily Wire, I thought she was going to go hard. She did not go hard. After leaving Daily Wire, she's narrowed down to, it's the Frankists. No, that's not the conversation. If you want to talk about Frankists, now you're softening the conversation, and then the JQ is their world. So then they're going to say, stay the hell up out of our world because you're confusing things. That's the take there. Whether you agree or disagree, I'm not even talking about if Ray agrees or disagrees. We have to get the take right. The take isn't, they didn't take the W. They did take the W. Nick was literally using her face, and that's the one that she used for her channel, is the one Nick picked, the picture of Candace Owens. They took the W. Now she's off on some other stuff, and now they're saying, when they criticized her, they weren't even like making fun of her. They were just saying, you need to have a more balanced conversation. The people you're having in these lives are debate bros that kind of convolute things, and they're not helping. So they were very gentle with their feedback on her. They didn't even attack her. Let's see here. Gropers. Okay. So here's Jessica. Gropers, for anybody who doesn't know, basically are supporters of. I'm gonna do it like this. Gropers are the same as MAGA. Like, I'm wearing MAGA. So you say, are you a part of MAGA? It's just a loose affiliation. So Ashley St. Clair wears MAGA gear. She's not MAGA in my opinion, but she rocks it. Gropers are that version for America First. America First is not MAGA. America First is led by Nick Fuentes. So basically it's the America First followers of Nick Fuentes, but is a very more defined group of people. It's young. I could never be a Groper. It's young, and this is my opinion. I'm not going to speak for them. This is my opinion from watching them, and I've chatted with a lot of them. So I'm knowledgeable on the Gropers. It's young, white, Christian men that follow the America First movement. It's not, I don't think it's an people will disagree with me. It's not an anti-black or anti-anybody else. It's a pro-white Christian male movement. So if you're a woman, you're not a Groper. If you're not white, you're not a Groper. If you're old white, you're not a Groper. It's young. And that's really important to have the energy of the youth. One of the problems I have with Donald Trump, he doesn't have the energy. He's too old. Hip hop is for youth. I like Busta and all these older guys still doing their thing, but hip hop is the energy of the youth. Sometimes it's misdirected and sometimes it's not, but you've got focused energy. And the Gropers are all really well. They do follow Nick as the leader, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's how a movement needs a leader. I've been saying Donald Trump's not a leader for MAGA. So Nick is that leader. When Nick said, what are we going to do with the Groper War? He literally put out, here's the mission statement. Why doesn't Donald Trump do that? Because he wants to bring in RFK. He wants to bring in all these people. And now it's not make America great again. It's make America healthy again. Wait, what? That was never the mantra. I'm obviously not against making America healthy, but you're clouding the message. Nick says, here's the Groper War. It's not it has nothing to do with Israel in the Groper War. It's no wars, no immigration moratorium, fire Chris LaCivita, Susie Wiles. That's it. The point I bring that up is he's a leader, clear message, clear movement. And he says, if you talk about violence, you're out. If you talk about even the JQ as far as the Groper War, that's not what he wants. He said, even if you swear as a part of the Groper War, that's not what you want. So he's a very impressive person and is a great movement. Yeah, so Ray says he agrees with what Candace said about the Frankists, but the problem is, Ray, we're not talking about Frankists. That's not the problem. The JQ, for people who don't know what JQ means, it's the Jewish question in general. And I'm not knowledgeable. I don't talk about the JQ. I talk with people about it. I listen to them. I have to read up and all that. I am more anti-Zionist. That includes a lot of Christians. But the problem with Candace talking about Frankists is that's not the JQ. And she's not only that, she's trying to say there is no JQ. It's the Frankists. No. That now you're an enemy. Now you're purposely trying to act like you're in this space because it's a blowing space where more and more people are talking about it. And she wants to be a part of that. She doesn't have Daily Wire backing, so she needs to be a part of that conversation. So she's taking that conversation and turning it into it's the Frankists. No, it's not. The question is larger than that. Stop talking about that. We don't care about that. That's the problem there. And I hate this about Dave Smith. Dave Smith went on with Andrew Schultz on the podcast, and he started talking this anti-Semitism stuff and in a way to not talk about the substantive concerns. And Nick called that out, and Nick was 100% right. You know I'm a big Dave Smith supporter. I mean, that's like one of the only things I've ever disagreed with him on is he's providing cover for the JQ, and that's why Candace is really liking him too, because he is Jewish and he's providing cover to say, well, no, there's no larger JQ. It's just this issue. No, we can talk about, and when I say JQ, I mean just talking about the topic in general. There's no problem when I say, well, what's the Christian question? What about Christians in this country? Nobody says, what about the CQ? Nobody cares. So my big thing with the JQ is, why is there a problem even talking about it? Well, the conversation needs to happen out in the open, especially when I hear Trump doing this. And I'm going to be out here in a second. Kid got flag football coming up. But I hear this, because Israel is an ethno state, you can't ignore. I'm not anti-Jewish people. This is about the question here. I'm not anti-Christians. If you want to talk about Christians, and I've criticized the Catholic Church, there's no problem. Nobody cares. There's never an issue. But if you do the JQ, now you're going to get banned, deranked, all that kind of stuff. And you might need to go to middlemaga.com, put your email in that little email thing, because they're just nuking people. And the channel, just for saying, I haven't even said anything about Jewish people on this whole show, just for saying you should be able to question Jewish people, Jewish power, Jewish influence. That could be enough to say, link does not work, 404 error. What happened to the channel Middle Maga? 404 error. He questioned Jewish people. Not in the mood for any type. Agree or disagree, everyone can be questioned. And here's Donald Trump. Every single effing day, Donald Trump says something like this.
And if I don't win this election, Israel, with Comrade Kamala Harris at the helm of the United States, is doomed. Israel is doomed. That's a tough statement. Israel will be gone. 1 year, 2 years, Israel will no longer exist. I better win. Or you're going to have problems like we've never had. We may have no country left. It may be our last election. You want to know the truth? People have said that. This may be our last election. You got to get out and vote. This could be our last election.
I don't want to argue. We're just not going to get anywhere with the argument. I want you to be, for the Trump supporters, I want you to be completely honest with me. Forget about Israel right now in the JQ. Just forget about that. You look at polling. You don't hear me talk ish about polling. It's a stupid conversation. Polling is political propaganda. It is manipulative. It's easy to be manipulated. It is a waste of time. But if you're looking at polling and you say Trump is getting this percentage, polling does not show turnout. Polling does not say these millions are going to turn out. Polling says of the people who will turn out, 60%, 55% of them are going to vote this way, we believe, within a margin of error. So you could say 100 people turn out, and that you say Trump has 55% of the vote, that means 55 people will vote for Trump. This election isn't about the percentage of people who are going to vote for Trump. That's already baked in. The election is it 100 people turning out or 1 million people turning out? That's where the election is. So if you have 1 million people turning out, it's 550,000 votes. It's the number of votes that matter, especially in the swing state. It's not the percentage. Even if it's 45% people voting Trump, he needs more people turning out. It depends on if they vote Kamala or not. So you see what I mean by turnout. If 45% of people vote Trump and he gets 1 million people, basically 1 million people turning out, he'll get 450,000 votes. So then now you have to see how many people are turning out for Kamala. It's the number, not the percentage. Why I bring that up is you want your base active and hungry, especially white men. Somebody asked me, well, I said, there's a story that Mexican was busing people from southern, basically from South America, other countries, busing them through Mexico so they didn't hang out in Mexico and getting them to the U.S. border to cross. And I said, white males are cucked in this country. And somebody replied and said, why do you just call out white males? Who else is going to stop it? The blacks don't care about immigration. Who? The Asians? The Latinos? I know there are some in those groups, but the heart of the people that have to care about it are white men. That is the demographic fact of it. And that should be Trump. That is Trump's base. Anybody telling you otherwise is just completely wrong. You're trying to get other people. That's fine. The core of the base is white men. The blacks don't vote for Trump. You're trying to get crumbs from the blacks. So if they're not hype to come out, especially men, women are just more organized and there's more kind of motivated to come out to vote and say, oh, I got to go to the polling before work or whatever and do my schedule. And men might get up late and be like, I don't give a shit, and not vote. Men aren't motivated as much. 2016, Trump had white men like, I can't wait. Let me go. Does this sound like white men can't wait to vote for? Listen to the crowd. I have not altered this
and if
video.
I don't win this election,
they're clapping here for something else. He said, if I don't win this election, Israel's going to be gone, whatever that means. Listen to the crowd. Does it sound like white men are motivated by this?
in Israel, with Comrade Kamala Harris at the helm of the United States, is doomed. Israel is doomed. That's a tough statement. Israel will be gone.
You could hear an effing pin drop. Listen.
Kamala Harris.
This is just like when he brought up the Mexican dude to speak Spanish. Everybody's like, what the hell is going on? Look at the people and listen to the crowd. Nobody's clapping for this.
Harris at the helm of.
It wouldn't change my take even if they did, but they're not even clapping for it. That's why he was awkwardly trying to figure out, like, where do I go from here?
The United States is doomed. Israel is doomed. That's a tough statement. Israel will be gone. 1 year, 2 years, Israel will no longer exist. I better win. Or you're going to have problems like we've never had. We may have no country left. It may be our last election. You want to know the truth?
Nobody is supporting it. It's quiet. I mean, you could hear someone fart in the crowd. It was so quiet.
Of the United States is doomed. Israel is doomed. That's a tough.
We don't care about a damn Israel.
Statement. Israel will be gone. 1 year, 2 years, Israel will no longer exist.
Your terms are acceptable. I don't care about Israel.
I better win, or you're going to have
You see
problems.
him fishing. It's like a stand-up comedian and no one's laughing. So he's like, okay, I got to link this to something else. I better win. And they still didn't clap. They're confused, Trump.
Is doomed. Israel is doomed. That's a tough.
Trump, they're confused. This isn't motivating white men to come out and vote. So you could get a high percentage of people that are like, I don't feel like voting. He's going to talk about Israel anyway.
Tough statement. Israel will be gone. 1 year, 2 years, Israel will no longer exist.
The hat says "Make America Great Again," not Israel.
I better win. I better win, or you're going to have problems like we've never had. We may have.
Somebody tried to get him high because they could tell, this usually happens on the left side where they say something and it doesn't resonate and then they force the fake clap. We've talked about that. They tried to get the fake forced clap here, but it didn't resonate. Like everybody's like, it's a little awkward. Yay, yay. Nobody was like, yay.
I better win, or you're going to have problems like we've never had. We may have no country left. It may be our last election. You want to know the truth? People have said that. This may be our last election. You got to get out and vote. This could be our last election. And if I don't win this election,
man, that was dry. So I'm not in the mood to argue it. I'm just telling you, whether you realize it or not, that's not motivating anybody. So you can go make your tent wide and whatever. Nikki Haley's in your tent and Ashley St. Clair's in your tent and Mike Pompeo's in your tent and Amber Rose is in your tent. You can go ahead and make the tent as wide as you want. And I'm all for working with different sides. But there has to be RFK's in your tent. There has to be some type of mantra or reason. That's not it. So that's why you see it linked to the Tim Pool stuff and all that. I think I talked about everything in the Tim Pool stuff. I'm going to be out here in a second, but I didn't go in depth with somebody brought up the FISA. Yeah, that's really concerning. The DOJ could do surveillance on anyone associated with Tenet Media, anyone, not just that, anyone associated with Benny, anyone associated with all the offsprings from it. Potentially, I don't know if Nick talked to Taylor or whoever talked to Taylor. And I mean, it's a lot. It's very expansive what they could do with that. I think I talked about that. Here's what I'm going to end with is that a lot of people have given me feedback about, this could be black pilling. I even heard Nick say, kind of feeling like I'm black pilled. Somebody cheer me up or something like that. And this isn't a diss to Nick, but just in general, black pilling is a feminine trait. And that's not to say it's negative. But what we need is masculine traits here, relevant to addressing the concern of the issue. If the issue is true, and I'm not trying to, I hope I'm not trying to present the issues in a way where Trump is a bitch for Israel and everything's doomed. You've never heard me, I'll say the country should end, but I won't say, everything is doomed. I actually say everything comes full circle, it's just a matter of time. But you have to acknowledge the truth of the situation, and men have to step up to it. If it's 3rd down and 20 yards to go, you can't say it's 2nd down and 5. You got to say it's 4th and 20. It's 3rd and 10. You have to accurately assess the situation. And whether you are black-pilled about the situation or not is a complete one. Not me, not Nick or anybody else. It's you. Because when I look at it and say, well, Trump is a complete Zog, whatever, he's just a complete, absolute joke and embarrassment, that actually is a positive thing to me. To know that and to say, well, you can challenge him. Nick Fuentes, white pill, challenging Trump. And then now we know going forward, one of the qualifications for anyone in this movement is going to be you cannot be pro-Israel. Definitely not Israel first. Otherwise, after this election, we all both know that's where this is heading. You're not going to be able to wear MAGA gear if you say what Trump said, any type of care about whether Israel exists or not. Israel doesn't care if I exist. Why the hell would I care if they exist? That's a white pill. I bring that up to say how you view things, glass half full or empty, is up to you. I appreciate y'all. I'm going to go out, get some flag football. Oh, we got to get the football picks in too. The game's starting soon, so I'm going to have to go get my football picks in. I love Dave Smith too. Just one small beef on the way that he handled the basically his Jewish identity and the anti-Semitism stuff. He used it to stop the conversation, which was not good. I don't know if he did it on purpose or not, but I still support Dave Smith. Let's look in here. Ray said, Gropers have no right to care when white people become the minority because they are campaigning against Trump. What do they think will happen if Trump loses? Yeah, I think that's basically the lesser of two evils argument, and that's just not working with people. I don't care about lesser of two evils. That I vote for something, not against anything. So if Trump's not for what I need him to be for, I don't care who the other person is. The other person could literally be anybody. I'm not voting for either one of them. But I'm not against anyone who is. This is not against people who are voting Trump. I've never done that. I'm just letting people know my position. Jared Kushner is a huge liability. Yeah, he's back involved, and they're not talking about him a lot. I love how they go after Lauren Chen and her husband for taking money from the Russians, which they didn't say whether they knew or not. But after office, Jared Kushner took $2 billion, not in his pocket, but for his asset management firm, and he's making money off the fees, tens of millions of dollars. No problem with that. Breitbart founded. Breitbart might have been founded in Israel. I don't know. Tied up. Ben Shapiro's doing ads for Israel on his podcast. Literally. It's not like Tenet Media was doing ads for Russia on their podcast. Russia's not an enemy because you told me they are. Israel's not an ally because you told me they are. Jared Kushner is a liability, but they're keeping him behind the scenes. He's not up as front as he was before, so I don't know how much he plays into it. Yes, Jessica Mai, let's end on that. Hope and pray. Everybody have a great Sunday, great weekend. Thanks for checking out the channel. Appreciate y'all. Peace.